Truth in sound or a flagship legend? Hey guys, and welcome back to another random distractions video. This is a continuation of my Arendal 1723S comparison videos, but in this one we're going to be testing them against some Polk and Martin Logan speakers. As I mentioned in this series, I am part of a group on AVS Forum, and if you're in the DFW area and would like to join, I'll leave a link to them in the description below. But I had reached out to them to see if they wouldn't mind me bringing the 1723S to them to compare against what they had. One of those goes by the username of ToastX. So thanks a lot to ToastX for letting me bring those out there. And we're going to be comparing them against his Polk L800s and the Martin Logan Motion 40s. As a teaser, the next and final video is going to be going up against a couple of different speakers from Revel, Dynaudio, and JTR. Like the previous videos, I did try to keep some of the parameters the same. So these speakers are going to be powered by my Peachtree Carina. And I'll play a couple of different songs just to get a feel for the speakers, and then for the actual recording of the audio and also the REW measurements, I will do one song or the same song that I've been doing in all these videos. The volume will also be kept at -20 on the Peachtree Carina, and so I'm not volume matching the speakers, but I've thought that this would be a good way to show how sometimes the sensitivity can make a difference in a speaker. So first off are going to be the audio recordings of the song. A couple of notes here are the 1723S is going to be in ported mode because the Polk and the Martin Logans also feature ported designs. The Polks also feature something called SDA, or Stereo Dimensional Array, and I do have a recording of it turned off and turned on. And one final note before the recording is that the Polks were in his living room area, so it was a big open space, while the Martin Logans were in a different room, which was a smaller bedroom, and so there will be two recordings of the Arendals, one in the living room and one in the bedroom. Alright, so first up we have the 1723S in the living room. Now the Polk L800s in the living room without SDA. Now the Polk L800s with SDA. right, moving over to the small bedroom, here are the Arendal 1723S. All right, and finally the Martin Logan Motion 40s in the small bedroom. All right, let's take a look at those REW measurements. All right, so we're gonna first take a look at the living room space where the Polks were, and here are the Arendals. Now let's take a look at the Polks without the SDA turned on. And while there is a dip in this area around, looks like 85 to 130 Hertz, they're actually pretty close as far as the other stuff goes. And this dip is probably due to placement of the speakers in the room. Now I'll turn off the Polk without SDA and turn on the Polk with SDA. And it still has that same dip, but everything else is still relatively the same, it seems like. All right, and now I'll turn the Polk without SDA back on, and I'm going to change it over to psychoacoustic smoothing so that all three are the same here. And I'll turn off the one with SDA for now so you can see what that looks like. And as you can see, there is some differences. So the blue line is the Arendal and the green line is the Polk, where it shows that dip. It's a little bit less there and less right here as well. Now I'll turn off the one without SDA and turn on the one with SDA. And here there's a little bit of a difference. It still has that dip there, but now there's an increase here in the low mid to mid area. And then the upper frequencies seem to be a little bit better, at least when compared to what the green line was. And one last comparison that I'll do is turning off the Arendals and turning on the Polk without SDA. And as you can see, the SDA does make a difference as far as the frequency response. The speaker wasn't moved or anything. This is just the difference between turning off SDA and turning on SDA. Off is the green line and on is the red line. Now let's take a look at the comparison with the Martin Logans. So here are the Arendals and this is the Martin Logans. And just a quick reminder, these were in a separate room. It was a smaller bedroom compared to where the Polks were, which was an open living room space. You can kind of see it in this view here, but the Martin Logans do seem to be a little bit brighter. They're the orange line. And I'll turn on psychoacoustic smoothing. And here you can see the difference is a little bit better. So the Martin Logans have a bump there, and a bump over here as well. So those are the measurements, but what did ToastX and I think? Well, he did prefer the sound of his Polk L800s, especially when he turned on SDA, because it did improve the stereo imaging. But he was definitely impressed by the sound of the Arendals, considering the price. So the L800s, I think for the price of one L800, you could buy a pair of 1723S. I would agree when listening to the Polk speakers that turning on SDA does improve the stereo imaging of the speakers. And one thing that I found out apparently with the L800s is that you have to buy them as a pair, but they do have a specific left version and a specific right version. However, looking at the measurements and actually listening to them in person, there wasn't too much else that really stood out when comparing them both. I did have someone mention in a previous video, I think it was maybe the Polk L800s, where somebody said that, oh, you know, the Peachtree Carina is probably not good enough or high-end enough to really showcase what those kind of speakers can produce. And that could be a possibility for sure, but it made me wonder, well, if that would help improve the sound of those kind of speakers, how would it help improve the sound of an Arendal speaker as well? So that's something to consider. As for the Martin Logans, they were brighter, and that's probably due to the different type of tweeter that they use in the speaker. But it had the same effect as when I listened to the clip speakers, in that the brightness from those speakers made the Arendal sound actually a little muffled. However, since we did listen to the Polks first in the living room against the Arendals, in that situation we didn't feel like anything was missing or anything sounded muffled. So definitely hearing a brighter speaker and then hearing something that's not as bright does make it feel like there is a difference. The Martin Logans do cost less than the 1723S, but the specific sound signature may be something to consider depending on whether that's something you like or don't like. Also, while the bass response didn't seem like it was that much less, in person, ToastX and myself actually felt like it was a noticeable difference. Well, that's all that I have for this video. I would definitely appreciate a like, of course, on this one, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next and final comparison video will drop, which will be against the Revel, Dynaudio, and JTR. But until then, I hope you have a good one.